Hello and welcome back to another week of the DP World Tour picks and bets. Magical Kenya Open week. Tom, it just brings a smile to my face. If I think about pivotal golf moments of my life, the 2019 Magical Kenya Open with Guido Migliozzi winning, it's probably up there in the top ones that I've gotten to experience. And as niche of a niche that may be, there was others that got to live out that exact same experience. Big shout out to Axis, who was with me in the early DP World Tour, European Tour days of digging into this data and living and dying by Guido Migliozzi, who won at Cairn Country Club as a rookie in 2019. Just a beautiful experience, fist pumping all the way down, just incredible stingers. And it's good to see Cairn Country Club back. This was, of course, again for Guido there. They also played it 2 times in 2021 in back-to-back weeks. Then it went over to Mathaga golf course there in Kenya. And now we're back at the home of golf for the Super Bowl, Magical Kenya Open. Tom, how are you doing today?
I'm good. It was good to have. I feel like it was good to have a break from what was Patrick Reed just dominating the DP World Tour for 3 weeks or so. I noticed Sky is in the betting for the Players' Championship. I don't know if that's intentional wishful thinking or if he is definitely in. I don't know how that's playing out.
I think they're probably just like covering themselves and I guess worst case, it's just a void. But I don't think he's playing. I think that ban's going to stay till the playoffs is over.
Yeah, I think so.
Because even the battlefield, which I'm not sure exists.
That doesn't exist, right? That's
right. It only exists to elevate, not just go from one to the other.
I think a lot of people have mentioned that recently.
Yep.
Because they're thinking it's going to happen with the Corn Ferry like it did and the Challenge Tour to do. I don't think it is. I just think that if you win 3, you're definitely going to get one anyway. So it's
right.
Kind of a good point, right? But you don't go straight away.
Yep.
I just thought it was interesting using that player because Laurie Cantor obviously played the Players, right?
Well, so Scaber will play. Because he's at a world ranking high enough that he's going to get in. He's in the betting odds. I was looking last night too. And he's not playing this week, which I thought he doesn't have to, obviously. But
I think it's always quite funny that some of these players aren't playing and on these given weeks. If I was Scaper, I'd be playing in every event that Patrick Reed wasn't, and just try to take advantage of it because. He is, I don't know if we've kind of talked about this last time or it's been since then, but it is kind of beat Patrick Reed territory at this point, right? Like if you beat Patrick Reed, you're going to be in the hunt, I think, most weeks because he is just a level above most people. And that's easy to kind of acknowledge, right? I mean, different skill sets to a lot of people, but he makes it work. I also think it's a world in which players should get close to him. And I know that sounds weird because he isn't that character that people would want to get close to, I don't think, based on kind of what people have said about him. But he would probably welcome being a mentor to a DP World Tour player and has plenty to give from a golf perspective, right? If he was to truly take that on board, I think about a new Aura, right? Like, what does Aura need to do? He needs to learn how to win. He knows how to play golf. He knows how to score. He knows how to chip in, top 10s every week. He doesn't know how to win. Spend a couple of rounds with Patrick Reed and just pick his brains, and that's probably going to be a huge benefit. So I do think there's a world in which this super villain becomes quite helpful to some DP World Tour regulars if they want it.
Yeah, for sure. And it is just an interesting state of the DP World Tour. And I guess this field is almost quintessential of what it is, where Angel Ayora, who, I mean, we can probably argue, just like you said, needs to be showing that extra tier, and he's separated by a wide margin in the odds, right? I mean, you're looking at 12-1 for Angel Ayora, who I think it's probably best odds you can get, closer, some spots in 11s, and then, a gap until we get to the 20s for odds. I mean, Ayora, until he gets 2 wins under his belt, is probably not going to skip any of these events. So it's not like we're going to have a Thurston Lawrence-led type of odds market probably this season. But it's interesting times when you just look at the board of what it is, and like I don't know if you want to like overall encapsulate kind of your thoughts on the high end guys here,
Yeah, I think
but
so. I think
it's
it's
just an
worth doing.
interesting state.
Yeah, look, I think first of all, I don't think Ayora deserves to be that short. Is the first thing. I think that this is a classic. Sportsbooks don't want to take a chance on the next big thing, let you double him up with someone like a Scheffler on the PGA Tour and take that kind of risk, right? So I don't think he's earned the right to be 10, 11 to 1. I think it should be kind of 16 to 1 or whatever, bigger the field. It's really unique to have Tristan Lawrence as a second favourite. I always think of Tristan Lawrence being a really well-respected winner who has PGA Tour upside and major upside, to be quite frank. But the beauty of betting Tristan Lawrence has always been, because he's so volatile, he's normally a reasonable price. Like he's always 40, 50, 66, 80, whatever it might be. When he starts coming in at 22 to 1, 28 to 1, whatever it might be, comes a hard grab, right? So I was quite happy to see those two leading the way. Then that opened up the opportunity for me to take two of them from the betting. And I don't know if you want me to go kind of into that straight away or whether.
Yeah, I think the only other thing we could kind of talk through is the course, right? I mean, we mentioned off the top transitioning from the Mathaga that they used previously to Karen Country Club. So what I remember of Karen Country Club was a very tighter tree-lined type of course. Guido was hitting irons off the tee, stingers with the tee ball super high to be in control of it. So I was kind of going into an angle of accuracy and kind of at least precision, mattering irons, accuracy into iron type of play. However, I do think there's angles, and some have explored kind of from a distance perspective too. So it is a shorter course with, I think, maybe upwards of 6, if not 7 par 4s under 400 yards, barring elevation differences too, right? We could see 3 of these things be drivable, or where the aggressive off the tee player could separate in that manner. So I think there's angles and ways to play both. Ultimately, probably got a combination of each of them on our cards overall. Where I'm kind of struggling as you talk through who you're interested in betting at the top here, the numbers associated with the guys is just like you just swallow the pill, right? And you go with it because there's probably reasons why they're all where they are. Outside, like, again, I kind of agree with you on the Tristan Lawrence, and he's been a very popular selection this week. And so those odds have dwindled even more, where that story for Tristan is just more an overarching theme of the career of him versus some of the more recent trends of other guys.
Yeah, 100%. I completely agree. I do get the concept about kind of being able to drive some of these short par 4s and distance definitely playing into hands, right? Like that's happened in years gone past in PGA Tour events, for example, right? Like it's always like, oh, the heritage don't have to be long, but if you are long, you can kind of take advantage of courses. That's kind of the example I always give. When I go back to kind of 2021, and yes, you had Jack Krojcevic and Romain Langas inside the top 7 for strokes going off the tee, but you also had Justin Harding, who won it in 19th, Kurt Kitayama 33rd, Connor Syme 53rd, Sebastian Garcia Rodriguez 22nd, John Baptiste Gonnet 72nd in strokes going off the tee. And when you look at kind of like the biggest drivers of the ball that week, Wilco Nienaber finished 28th, Aaron Cockerell 52nd, JC Ritchie 73rd, Jack Krojcevic finished 5th, and then Johannes Piemann finished 16th. So I still think there's a world in which we approach this with accuracy, and that's kind of how I've gone, to be quite frank. I've kind of looked at it as kind of very similar to what we've seen over the years at Mathiga. And if you were good at Mathiga and you hadn't played it before, you weren't as good. I'm still pretty confident. And that's kind of led me to the picks that I've made. But there's only 2 ways of playing it. As you said, Sky, before we came on, like it's all well and good to be able to drive it long and be aggressive. If you put it in those trees, it's game over as well. So there is something to be said for the people. And also, how many times do we go to a course where it's like only bombers can win and then someone plods around as well? Whereas we're saying, actually, this gives everybody a chance because it's shorter. I think just take the players in form that like playing Kenya was very much my simple takeaway of it.
And obviously, Guido is not a long hitter, and Guido is kind of where at least a lot of the comparisons of corollary courses, I think he's the guy that's used for a lot of them, right? He won at the Belgian Knockout later that year, has had success at Omega. Like I think Guido, I think Ben wrote about that, Coley, about how Guido was kind of the person to look at for some of these parallels, and he's not of that type. He can be aggressive though, but more with the iron play, and probably benefits from it not being as driver heavy. So let's go through your selections there at the top.
Yeah. So look, I started it with Henny Duplessis, and I went on a really long tirade, and then almost not tirade is the wrong word. I went on a really long explanation of why I picked Henny Duplessis in my article, and then apologised in my next pick for spending so long talking about Henny Duplessis. But I think there's just been this world in which we've kind of, and I'm including myself in this, we've kind of just forgotten about him and kind of how good he was before he went off for 18 months with an injury. So in 2022 and 2021, he was kind of peaking, right? He was kind of making a transition from playing on the Sunshine Tour to Challenge Tour and eventually DP World Tour. Played those 3 events on Live, finished second to Charles Schwartz on the first ever event. Didn't obviously get picked for the kind of Stingers teams. That's where his kind of story ended. Came straight back onto the DP World Tour and picked things up, and he had multiple chances to win. He ran into Pablo Raffbao a couple of times, Adrian Aus, a couple of others at the very peak of his powers, but he played well at Wentworth, he played well at Grands. So really impressed. And then he's come straight back. He had 18 months out with injuries. He's come straight back onto the Sunshine Tour, won an event that isn't actually showing up, I don't believe, on his data golf, but he did win it. And then you go to the last DP World Tour events, and okay, he finished 64th for the Alfred Dunhill Championship at the end of last year. But after that, 25th in Mauritius Open, 19th in the Dubai Desert Classic, 16th in Bahrain, 15th last week in Qatar. Every week he's getting better. And that's a really positive sign for somebody that didn't play between March 2024 and November of last year, right? And when he did finally come back, he was just unbelievable. Just continued to be really, really good. So I think the upside of a Henny Duplessis is massive. I think we haven't seen the best of him yet. And I think even when he was getting into his stride, it was leading into COVID. So then he had that disruption as well. I just don't think he's really had a chance to show us kind of what he's all about. And when you look at it, I mean, he won 3 times between 2017 and 2025 on the Sunshine Tour. He's beaten Christian Bezuidenhout in a team event. He's beaten Oki Stridham, who we know has won twice on the DP World Tour. So he's kind of done it at that lower level. He has lost in a co-sanctioned Challenge Tour event to Brandon Stone, his compatriot as well. So he's really just been about, and I just think with this type of event, he played okay at Mathaiga on his debut. That's the only place that he has played so far. But he was 10th at the halfway stage. I just think with Duplessis, we've kind of forgotten, because he's been outside our mind, how good he is. And the way he's playing and trending suggests that we should really take a closer look at him, because he's basically been in the mix for the last 4 events. 15th, 16th, 19th, and when he was 16th, he was 10th going into the final round, and when he was 19th, he was 9th going into the final round. So he's conceivably been close to top 10s every week.
Yeah, I mean, again, to come back off of a long layoff, I mean, it takes golfers time, and there was just no time. It was just instantly potentially better than he was before. Like if you're looking at him just from a raw perspective, does have that aggressive ability off the tee too. That I find pretty intriguing. It's like I put him next to like the guy that I would like to bet if I wasn't really thinking about the number in perspective, which is like Mikael Lindberg, right? Mm-hmm. Like I think of a new tier of golfer showing the off the tee ability, unlike pretty much anybody on the DP World Tour, yet doesn't have any of the top 10 finishes, doesn't have any, at least this year, like, he came through with a couple towards the end, 3 of them towards the end of last year. But I would trust Duplessis a little bit more, I feel like, even though, it's been, to your point, not on the big tour of a win.
Yeah, it's like hard to trust him because we haven't seen him for so long. But that's kind of
Who
like
do you trust in the entire field? I guess
Yeah.
Tristan Lawrence, and I guess that's why people are betting him, right?
Like I only trust Tristan Lawrence once he's there on Sunday. I don't trust him to get to the Sunday and be in position. That's the real difficulty with Tristan Lawrence, right? Is like that's why you like betting 50, 61. You're like, okay, well, if he gets there, he's great. If he doesn't, he could shoot 77, 80 or whatever. So Duplessis just feels like the right mix of kind of really solid, and we know he's got some upside to win at a lower level at least.
Well, and that's why, like, I mean, I guess you're also, you know, if we want to talk about your next selection with Callum Hill, right? I mean, that's I also don't really trust him, yet he did win this style of event last year, right?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's funny, isn't it? We don't trust him because he's just finished second twice, and in one of them he shanked it and actually concedes a playoff, which I don't think has ever been done before, right? But he's also a two-time DP World Tour winner. He won kind of, I think, 2021, right? And then he won last year, as you said, at the Joburg Open. You know, similar sort of thing in South Africa, a bit of altitude. To finish second the week after shanking it in a playoff and conceding, chasing down Patrick Reed is really impressive, right? And I honestly believe, and this is no disrespect to Freddie Shot, but if Patrick Reed wasn't involved in Bahrain, I imagine Callum Hill kind of walks that one, right? And he should have won that event. There's no getting away from that. Freddie Shot shouldn't have had the chance to win it. Patrick Reed then probably should have won it once he went to a playoff, and he didn't. And I think that all gets to Callum Hill. It's like, well, actually, you know, I've thrown this away, and now I've got one of the best players in the world kind of chasing me. He's obviously struggled to cope with that, but to come back and play as flawlessly as he did over the weekend last time out, and then come to a course where he's finished third and eighth already, I was just really surprised that he was available at the number. I honestly thought he was going to be like 16-1, and you just didn't have to think about it. He's 28-1 still best price. It just makes no sense. I don't understand how he's almost 3 times the price of the favourite when he's got back-to-back seconds and really strong course history with the third and the eighth.
Yeah, he was the one. If I'm just looking through like a statistical, especially when we talk about the accuracy, iron success here the last time it was around, like he's the standout and probably could have easily been 10 points lower. Like I don't disagree. I guess in this field, it's just you sit here and you, as much compelling you can get for all of them, you can poke holes in just about every single other person too, you know. Like, I mean, Ewan Ferguson was somebody that I thought, you know, very strong irons. Again, he's just not doing it, you know, in regards to finishes. The other one, Dan Bradbury, you know, he's kind of the one that
I wish
if he's in contention, like I trust Dan Bradbury too, you know.
So it's really funny with Callum Hill as well. Like he's beaten the defending champion. Like Jack Croisfit, I know he's a different golf course, but he's the defending champion of this event, and that's who Callum Hill beat to win Joburg Open last year. Like it all kind of matches perfectly with his course form as well. Yeah. But yeah, to your point, like Dan Bradbury, what do we always say about Dan Bradbury? Is like when he shows the irons, we should be all over him.
Yeah.
But it's so hard. Like he doesn't. I can never get him right. If I take him at a short price, he plays poorly. If he goes out to a big price, I'm always 1 week too early or 1 week too late. I just don't have very good success with Dan Bradbury. I know you have. I know Brad has. RB would have done as well. So, like, on paper, this should be a perfect event for him. And me and Brad were talking about earlier, like, how has he not played in Kenya yet? Like, he's so good in South Africa. Why he's not played at any Kenya Opens yet? So, I can see him being like a Kenya Open specialist in the next 5 years.
Yeah. Like that's the one. Like, I'm just like, man, like, and I probably will. I have the room for the top guy to squeeze in. That it's just, I think I had the least amount of questions of why I would be backing this golfer with Bradbury, and then I also probably have the most trust in him of any of those guys too.
But I think with him, it's just like you've got to kind of dive into it, right? Because he was second in December, wasn't it, at the Nedbank Challenge? Then played poorly. Then started the year with 30th, which was okay. He was 41st at Dubai as a Classic, but he was actually 15th going into the final round, and that was after a really slow start. Then he misses in the cut in Bahrain, but it wasn't really that bad. He was 32nd after round 1. And then he finished his 5th last time by getting better every round. So it seems volatile, but when you look at it kind of in more detail, round by round, is actually pretty impressive. So I can see why he's the price he is. He's just such a hard grab when he's been like 125 to 1 every week. But to one of your earlier points, Scott, that's just going to be the same for everyone at this point. Like now everyone's kind of deserted and gone back to the PGA Tour. This is the new reality. And Dan Bradbury at 33 to 1, Callum Hill at 28 to 1, they're going to be your they're overpriced type players when realistically they're normally worth 66 and 80 when we're saying that.
Yeah. And like for me on it, it's like more or less I could also rack up 2 to 3 more guys down the board, which it's a little bit of friends and family card with a lot of guys that I trust or think, not even trust, I think highly of that, have shown not much at all, that it's like, okay, like because that mid-range is just so weird. Like there's just a lot of odd, weird things on the DP World Tour right now that I guess I'm just more prone to be able to put in some long shots when Patrick Reed isn't here. Yeah. And Skaper's not here to steal a week out of form, at a different style golf course that requires different skill sets. So I land with a pretty decent gap to where I'm going next. So I don't know if you want to talk through anybody in this mid-range specifically.
Yes. So where am I in my next? So my next selection is 70 to 1.
Yeah, me too.
Jacob Skol-Olsen come to mind for me a little bit, but couldn't quite get there, couldn't pull the trigger. Todd Clements shown some improvement. Couple of good rounds last week. Doesn't need much encouragement for me to bet him, but decided both were easy enough to pass up. So yeah, I think it's down to the 70s where our 2 selections are.
Yep. Okay, then I'll just go. I asked you on this show 2 weeks ago, please, Guido, show us life. Show us a sign of life so we can bet you at the Magical Kenya Open. That he did, Tom. That he did. So, again, small glimpses, 9-hole stretches, little things for me seeing Guido. It is honestly all I have to see. It's kind of, he's not his 2024 self, but before that stretch when he went 2nd, 24th, 8th win, there wasn't much to write home about for Guido for roughly 24 months, prior to that. And even when he won at Le Golf National, there wasn't that much leading into it. What we see here at Qatar specifically was Guido finally turned a corner with his irons. That's really what it was. He was 10th after the opening round, 20th at the halfway point, ended up finishing T36. But the life in the irons gave me at least some excitement for him. He's been bad off the tee after showing some decent improvements in that in 2024 for his really strong year. Just has fallen off quite a bit from an accuracy and driving standpoint to where he might be bringing back that signature stinger off the tee a lot on this type of course, which was probably to the benefit if you can double your strokes gained approach bucket versus go off the tee into approach and play it a little bit differently. I think that's just probably best for Guido's current state. The short game has turned a corner since what it was, like when he first came to this golf course. And what I remember, and there's another golfer we'll talk about later, I'm not betting him, but when doing these stats by hand back in 2019, Guido was the separator in ball striking back then. Off the tee approach, he was a clear 1. And the second was Ivan Quintero Gutierrez back then. And again, the validity of some of these stats is hard because it was brand new for strokes gained over there. Guido won. Quintero made his first ever cut after being one of the worst golfers on there. And there, like I said, there could have been wrong stats for Quintero, rumors of that. But like these guys showed up just being flushers and not really relying on a short game. And that's the type of golfer that I still think of for Cairn Country Club in that. And Guido had success the next time around. He was T12 contention going into the week at like 20 to 1 in 2021, 2 years after that win. So I think 72 to 1 was the outrights for Guido. I mean, I'm not showing up at Magical Kenya Open at Cairn Country Club without Guido on the card.
I think it's one of those ones, and like I'm never going to talk you in or out of Guido. You're going to come to that own conclusion yourself, right? But like, one, to your point, the irons are kind of there. right, in the last 2 events. Really eye-catching. 2, he's playing in Kenya where he definitely has comfortability, and there's obviously one before. 3, you talked there about like what he was like in 2019 versus what he's like now. When I think about, and this is a completely different opposite end of the scale, but talking about like Matt Fitzpatrick this week, like he just completely lost his ball striking, right? Like after his kind of US Open run and that kind of really positive year in kind of 23, 2024 and 2025 was really hard for him. He's kind of lost in all angles. He's now seemingly come back better than ever, right? Like his irons at Pebble Beach were his highest recorded in days golf that I could see. And that's been a consistent trend since like June. His irons have been so good. If you were good at something and you've tried to get something better at something else, eventually you get back to being what you're good at, I think, is the long and short of it. You think about when Keimer had his little renaissance, when you think about Manacero having his kind of little run and come back onto the PGA Tour, right? If you've got the foundations, you will lean back into it. And that is probably what Migliozzi's doing. It's like, look, I tried all this to try and improve, to try and find another gear, maybe make me PGA Tour ready. I can't do it. Let's lean back into this and kind of get some results and some wins. And I think we're starting to see the early signs of that.
Yeah. I mean, just a glimpse is all I was asking for, and it's there. I don't think, and like the odds aren't bad, right? Like he T10s that event, it's 40-1. You know, it's just what it is when you have the course history like that. I mean, he was 150-1 in Qatar, so they have factored in this history, but also Patrick Reed and Scaper aren't here. So,
and I think it's just like I sort of say it's a lot at the moment. I feel like it's, if he was priced at the same price as Alejandro Del Rey at 45-1, does anyone really batter an eyelid? Like if you still wanted to bet Migliozzi, you'd probably go.
They probably still get my money. You know, they know what they're doing.
You're probably still going to justify it by going, well, that's just the price he is, and look at Del Rey, right? Like, not to pick on Del Rey, I don't know why I've necessarily picked on him. Like it could be anyone, it could be Norgard Muller, the way he's playing, could be Campillo, could be whoever, right? They're very quick to drop some of these players based on not a lot really happening, right? And they don't have the same upside that he should. I mean, what's Francesco Laporta really doing at the moment that's that much more than Migliozzi? Not a lot, right? And he doesn't have that kind of same pedigree, I don't think, and certainly not in Kenya. So, I think there's a world in which it's very easily, he's probably just 20 points too big, or at least I trust him to be someone at some point. Whereas some of those guys, they might never win, right? Like it's some of them have, but like, yeah.
Yep. Okay, how about you go over to your guy?
Yeah, Gregorio De Leo had a really good debut in this event last year, kind of out of nowhere, finishes 5th, albeit at Mathigo, right? Like he's coming into Carolina for the first time. But 70-1, I think even if we just focus on what he's doing right now and just take this away, the kind of the course record for a start. Australia PGA Championship at the end of kind of last year, he finished 14th with a third round 65 there. He was 21st in Mauritius, where he had 2 rounds of 67, and then that was, ruined by 73 and 74, but 2 really positive rounds to kind of get him in around the kind of top 20. Kicks off the year at Bahrain with an opening round 67, so he sits in 8th place going into Friday. Really poor from there, 74, 75, 74. But then last time out in Qatar, 3rd after round 1, 10th after round 2, 5th after round 3, 9th he finishes inside the top 10 for all 4 rounds in Qatar after a really strong finish to 2025. I think De Leo should garner a little bit more attention, and that's probably why he's in this 70-1 bracket as opposed to 150-1, to your point about kind of others that you're mentioning there. But he's gone back to Q school and got himself back in. We've seen the upside with his 5th here last year, or 5th in this event last year. We've seen the 4th in Denmark, where he gained strokes across the board. His iron play pretty much dictates whether he's going to play well or not. He doesn't have the other things to kind of lean on. If he hits his irons well, he tends to kind of get in the mix. But his kind of upside is so much better than some people around him already in a small sample size. But I'm really encouraged when you go back to kind of 2024 before he was even really, at his best, and he finished 10th in his home open in Italy, right, at the Italian Open. He had some really good Challenge Tour finishes. Again, he goes through Q-School in the final stage there. So he's just shown a bit, right? And then he's played plenty of events at altitude, having won 3 times on the Alps Tour. I really like the Mayo, and I think forgetting the fact that he obviously finished 5th at the other golf course, I think he's just a good fit for this and playing really well, better than his odds suggest.
Yeah, he's been a spike iron player for quite some time. That has definitely caught my eye. So I'm very much for that pick. And again, you put it crossed versus some of the other selections, you can kind of make through this. And I think, ultimately it's where you land on upside of player versus just straight up talent levels. I think the one that I'm looking at right now, who's also at 70 to 1 as we speak in this market here, is I'm willing to forego early 2 events of the DP World Tour for our 17-year-old phenom, Yanhan Zhu. Miscut pretty bad that first event, but what was interesting in Qatar, actually, so he missed at 1 under, which was on the number. I believe in that opening round, he was inside the top 30 after the opening round at that event. And what I found incredible about that was because that event started before you went to sleep, so you could see a little bit of the early rounds for us here in the States. And, I've had him just on a short list for the entire season, of trying to catch his lightning in a bottle, which I think at long odds could be coming soon. 70 is probably shorter than what I expected. I thought we might be able to get them to nap a little bit more on him. But in that 3 rounds, he had a triple bogey on his first hole, and then he proceeded to shoot 2 under par that day with another double bogey, and then missed the cut by 1 the next day with another double mixed in there. Now, of course, he's got to cut out the mistakes, right? But that birdie ability was intriguing to me. To shoot under par with a 5 over on 2 holes at least caught my eye for him enough to be like, okay, I expected a made cut after being 2 under after the first round. I was disappointed in this cut. We get the 70 to 1 now. He was 80 an hour ago. So people aren't shying away from him, but I'm willing to give it a shot. And he seems of the mold of more distance than playing, a lot of, golfers that come through playing, he came off of the China Golf Tour. So, that golf tour is probably more predominantly courses I would think of this style, right? More tighter, accuracy driven. So potentially he was separating from the power that he could have, especially at his age and the speed he probably generates. But that could also factor into the aggressiveness and strength of what he could do at Carring Country Club if he can control that on some of these shorter par 4s. So again, 40 to 1. I just think overall, or 70 to 1, excuse me. I think overall is still leaning into the talent that he has, but very much want to take the risk with him still.
Yeah, and I think, look, if we just think about it in really plain terms as well, this is a 17-year-old that won 7 times in China last year and won the Order of Merit to get his spot on the DP World Tour, right? That's unbelievable. Like Hao Tong Lee won 3 times in 2014 to be the Order of Merit winner. To give some context to that. Now, I think Lee was about the same price, same age, when he won those 3 events in China. I'm not 100% sure. But if you look at the kind of Order of Merit winners in China, you got, Zhesheng Du as well, who's, won 3 times on the Corn Ferry, played well on the PGA Tour at times. You've got Maverick Ancliffe that's played well at times on the DP World Tour as well. He eclipsed all of those doing what he did last year as a 17-year-old. And as you said, and to the point again, yes, you could argue there's benefits to being able to drive it long on some of these holes. But the reality is it's a more tight tree-lined golf course, more akin to what he would have seen in China and Japan and Korea and all those sort of places that he would play, versus going to a big wide open golf course in anywhere else in mainland Europe, right? Like it's going to be kind of limited places where he's going to get a similar experience to home, and this is one of them. And like I think one of the things as well is, and it will come on to kind of what I'm talking about next as well. When he inevitably plays well in one of the Chinese events that is co-sanctioned, everyone's going to go, oh, well, he can do it when it's in his kind of home events or whatever. I don't think there's like more pressure to do well in those. Like you should be able to come over to South Africa and Kenya and be like, like if I do well as a 17-year-old traveling abroad, then great. But I really need to impress everybody that come out to watch me, and the whole country kind of rests on me being the kind of leading Chinese golfer, right? Outside of Hao Tong Li now. But yeah, I think there's almost more pressure still in the High Open. So I'm really intrigued to see how he copes with that this year. When I think they're going there, right?
Yeah. So, and to make cuts in his home events when he played. You said, I think, again, I would have expected triple digits, but then the sneaky, like, still him versus some of the golfers in this range of like what we don't know about him yet, I think is worth it. And you're betting, and we'll talk through some of the golfers who are excelling on the other tours that are getting spots in this field. I don't know if that's next on the odds board for you, but we'll get there at some point. But overall, we'll probably pick up the pace a little bit. We'll go through a little bit more selections. Yeah,
that's my next and final pick.
Okay,
so I'm happy.
Perfect.
So Veer Alawat is 150 to 1. And look, I always forget that he's actually not, 23, 24 anymore. Like he is 29 at this point. But his form is, incredible. If you look at just form guides, third, first, sixth, first, third, fourth, and third in his last 8 events. Unbelievable. The run of form is incredible. Yes, it's in India, right? There's no getting away from that. We talked about Manu Gandas in the past. We've talked about other Indian players that we've kind of welcomed onto the DP World Tour. You have to caveat it that it is a far weaker tour, but he's also coming into the event full of confidence. He's barely been beaten by any players in this run, and he has shown upside. He's finished second in the Hero Indian Open in the past, which, as I just run through in Zhao's case, like you should be really impressed by that. I think like that was second to Nakajima. If you go to the Singapore Open back in 2022, he finished 5th in a field that included Tom Kim, it included Ben Campbell, for what that's worth, Paul Casey. Other big names, Katsugara's won on the DP World Tour. There's loads of people he's kind of gone and put himself up against. So for him to be in the form that he's in at this time, playing in Kenya again, because he did do that last time at Mathaiga, where I think he had a final round 68 or 69, I can't remember what it was now. But it was good, it was positive. And then you look at last year, right? And, this will be the first time he's really dedicated his whole time to the DP World Tour. 17th in the Hero Indian Open, 13th in Austria, 25th at the Nexo. He was 33rd in Crans, where again they play at altitude as well. He had a second round 64 there, 69 and 68 otherwise as well. Just couldn't keep up with the scoring. I think there's plenty to like about Alawat in the way that he's playing, the form that he's in, and the course fit. So 150 to 1, I really like Alawat to make an impression here.
Yeah, it's really the success on the minor tours and just leading into a field that can't be as much of an elevation as starting off at a Rolex Series event and thinking they're gonna roll right into that, right? I think that's the conversation. I think Yuvraj Sandhu we talked about early on in the year. If you're of that belief, I wouldn't really let 4 events being poor factor all that much into it. I mean, it's hard not to, right? Sandhu, went miscut basically by a mile 3 times in a row, right? I think maybe in the Bayern he was close to the number,
and that's going to be the thing that people say about Alawat, right? Like he hasn't played a DP World Tour in this run of form. I'm just going by the fact that Sandhu hadn't done that yet on the DP World Tour. Alawat had shown up by the 3 top 25s last season. And I actually would argue coming into this event off the back of that massive run in India, just being confident and knowing that he's at the winning level he needs to be is going to at least give him the confidence to push on. And he's got the bank of form from last year to carry on to. So completely understand there's a huge caveat to it. There's a massive context in terms of the difference of the tour, but we do think that's probably shortening a little bit with the quality of fields these days. 150 to 1's big enough.
Yep. Okay. So I'll fire through two quick. So Benjamin Follett Smith, coming off the Sunshine Tour slash Challenge Tour as of recent. So 31 years old. We've had decent amount of exposure to him through the years, playing primarily on the Challenge, but popping up here and there. I think in regards to just run of form right now, that's again name of the game when I'm going into this. Won on the Sunshine Tour 4 weeks ago or end of January. Missed the cut in Byron. Still looked pretty good off the tee, though. Then Qatar was quite good ball striking for him. Finished 24th there. Basically steady the entire tournament. Goes back to the Challenge Tour last week, opening around 60 for him. Backpedals a little bit the next two rounds, finishes T9. But I just think from a form perspective, to get him still at 150 to 1, I'm not sure outside of when you dip down to the PGA Tour of India or some of the other tours to play, if there's somebody in that type of form popping up. So he was one. Second one, again, a little bit of a golfer I just think crazy high of in regards to the talent is just Cameron Adam. He's 275 to 1. Again, I've been waiting for that glimmer of it. What we saw at the Open Championship from irons, what we saw as an amateur at the British Masters going into contention on the Sunday at the Belfry, which is, of course, again, Guido lost in a playoff with. We've seen some parallels to the two as well. Not much out of the gate. Miscut in Australia. T35, which actually I think that week he brought it deep into Sunday maybe. He was fourth of the first round. T12, I think, after 3 rounds. But what really got me going was in Qatar, his irons were back to the level I expected them to be at, which is among the best players on this entire tour. And you're not going to get that at 275 to 1 in a bad field too often. So I'd rather take the risk on him early after he showed that little bit of life. So he was the other golfer confirmed for me. I got one more selection, but I didn't know if we want to go through anything high level from long shots you were intrigued at.
Let's have a very quick look. There wasn't really too much that caught my eye after the people that I was on. I do like Cam Adam. I like that pick. I think it's certainly intriguing. I keep thinking that Pablo Larrafabao is going to live up to him saying how inspired he was by Justin Rose at one point, but it feels like he's missed a couple of cuts and finished 44th since then. So maybe not inspired enough to actually
figure out. The inspiration of Anthony Kim for this one, though.
Yeah.
Which we didn't, don't have time to talk about today, but incredible, obviously, insane to have that win. Just really cool for the golf world, but probably maybe get some motivation for the olds too.
Yeah, no, absolutely, I agree with all of that. No real notes from me.
The only other one that I was trying to find a way, Hunter Logan. I don't know if you saw this. He was somebody who was he's one of the Americans who played in Q School. He Monday qualified into the Farmers, missed the cut there. Then he went and played on the
Sunshine.
He played the hotel. He went Farmers Insurance Open into the Qatar Masters.
Yeah.
And then from there, missed the cut into Challenge Tour, T2 last week into this. So I always like to track the Americans that, are going the European route. He didn't get through qualifying school, so it starts a few or far in between why he's making this. But I was impressed by him getting to T2 there. But okay, we'll give a shout out to our audio listeners. You can find us daily fantasy sports picks and bets, the mix, available across all different podcast platforms. Super appreciate all the love that you guys give for us, especially on this week. I know it's Tuesday show versus the Monday. There was a holiday over here in the States. So missed it yesterday, but want to get this out within time. And again, I love this event. I know a lot of our followers do. So really appreciate all the love that we get for that. And it leads into the last selection, Tom. I mean, just quintessential of our podcast is a selection like this. However, this is where it differs just a little bit than the previous Magical Kenya Opens, right? If I told you there was a golfer whose form into this event, Tom, win second, win second, withdraw, fourth, win, fifth, win, since the Magical Kenya Open, that's what he has played and that's what he has won. Would that be intriguing to you, Tom?
It would intrigue me hugely.
What if he's a 2-time winner at Karen Country Club? Another thing, Tom, including one this year, he has won at this course.
You'd have me sold.
Right? It's our guy. It's our guy. We've bet on multiple Kabugus in our stretch of the Magical Kenya Open, and they're in the field every year, man. But we'll have so Njori, so it's Njoroge Kabugu. Some books it's Njori Njong Kabugu. His brother, who I think might have been the first Kabugu we bet on, is Muthaya. Muthaya is longer odds. He's 4,000 to 1. He's not in that type of form as Njori is. We'll see. It's 750 to 1 is the best price on Njori Kabugu there. And so I spent the research, Tom. There's a new tour. There's a new tour in Kenya. So this win, second win, all these wins, this is on the Big Easy Tour.
Yeah.
So the Big Easy Tour is the feeder into the Sunshine Tour.
Mm-hmm.
So a legit OWGR tour. However, there's also a new tour called the Equator Tour. Or maybe it's the Equator Tour. I don't remember how it's. I think it might be the Equator Tour. No,
I reckon Equator, yeah, probably.
Which replaced the local Kenyan tour. He was also the Order of Merit leader on that tour as well. He did get beat by another golfer recently who was in this field too in the last event. However, even though he did lose that one, he won the overall. Yeah, David Wakhu got the best of him at the last Ecuador Tour event for those following. The Equator Tour, excuse me. I think it's the Equator. But Kabugu is white hot. He's showing up at Karen Country Club. And whether or not he has had success at the previous Magical Kenya Opens, that doesn't factor, Tom. At 750 to 1, he's much shorter than where we had. Last year he missed the cut. Year before he missed the cut. Year before that he missed the cut. And yes, he did miss the cut the year before. However, if you go all the way back to 2022, he did make the cut at the Magical Kenya Open, and that is when he had the second round 66 that put him T5 at the halfway point. So again, at his age then, he would have been 17, 16, making the cut there. So I just think there's good vibes for us, Tom, with Kabugu. I wasn't showing up there, with no Kabugu on the card.
Yeah, I mean, you can't go naked Kabugu into Kenya, right?
There's two of them, man. You got to be on one or the other.
I think there might be. Is it just the two this year?
There was one that was close. I don't think it's Kabugu. It was like Kabugi, maybe. I think it ended with an I instead of
I. Kabugu and George Kabugu, who we're talking about.
Yep.
Okay, so that's just the only two, and then we've got to really confuse it as well because it's in George Kabugu, right? But then there's also Samuel and George, so you need to be careful. Completely dialed in. Read the tweet. Listen to Sky butcher his name at least 5 times before you pick it. It is the guy that is absolutely tearing it up on the Big Easy Tour.
And our guy, Paul, former producer here for us, Paul messaged first thing, like Happy Kabugu Week. Like, it's everyone knows it's Kabugu Week.
Everyone knows it's Kabugu Week. And everyone will know when they finally land a win here.
750s is still plenty good. It's sad it's not 4,000 to 1.
Yeah.
I had my friend Jude following Robson Chinhoy, last week. He was also a Magical Kenya Open bet that we've made in our day. Yeah. But I have faith in Kabugu, man. He's only 22. We probably got 20 more years of betting him, too.
I mean, at 750 to 1, it sounds like they're scared of it almost at this point. So
yeah, they were. Those dropped. Bear Off tweeted at 7 a.m. that he's on them. So that definitely cut the odds in half. But 750s, I'm taking Kabugu.
Yeah, Kabugu's in. We like it.
Yep. Okay, you go from the top of your betting card.
Yep. So it's Henny Duplessis for me at 25 to 1, Callum Hill at 28 to 1. Gregorio De Leo at 70 to 1 and Veer Alawat at 150 to 1.
Beautiful. Dan Bradbury, 33-1 for me. Guido Migliozzi, 72-1. Jan Han Zhu, he's 70-1 now, so he's 70. Benjamin Follett Smith, 150-1. Cameron Adam, 275-1. And then Jorg Kabugu, Kibugu on the card, 750-1. We're laddering that with top 5, top 10, top 20, first round leader, all going to be on the Kabugu. And then we can hopefully wake up to just absolute glory on Thursday morning.
Have you checked any Florida to Kenya flights to make sure if he's...
Yeah, I'm going to see if Pat can whip out the corporate card for us. If we get Kabugu in the final group, do you think I can make it in less than 12 hours to Kenya? I don't know, but we could try.
I don't know what the Florida to Kenya are. I am terrible at both geography and flight times.
I mean, there's no way there's a direct. Right? No. I'm probably coming and picking up you up on the way.
Yeah, I mean, you are from Orlando. It's one stop flight, 80
Where's the stop?
Hours. I don't know.
In our careers, if we don't go to Magic Kenya Open, we've done something wrong.
Yes, I agree. But you can get there. That's all I would say. Is it's doable. It's 18 hours though. But it's
imagine Guido and Kabugu dueling it on Sunday.
You would have to go. You would have to.
Oh, okay. I'll 80 hours probably means I should probably get my bags packed now because that'll get me there.
And if they both make the cut on Friday, you're gonna have to just make the jump and
yeah. Oh man, what a world! But yeah, we'll be there one day, without a doubt. All right, Tom. I appreciate you as always. I love this show specifically. This is one of my favorites of the entire year. So we'll have this. We'll be back next week, South African Championship, and then we'll go straight into Are we back to back in South Africa? Right. Yeah. Joburg is the following week. So we got 3 weeks in a row before another break in the schedule.
And then it's China, which I talked about.
Yep.
China, India, the Masters, China, Turkey. So it's a nice swing there. So looking forward to it.
Yep. Perfect. Cool. Well, thank you all. Appreciate you, Tom. Thank you as always. And we'll catch you guys next week. Good luck, everyone, and go Kabugu.
Go Kabugu.